Welcome to our podcast. This is Friends on Fire.
I'm Mike. I'm a lifelong devotee of financial independence. I even wrote a book about it.
And I'm Maggie, a newer convert, but just as passionate, especially on the intersection of minimalism and financial independence.
We're one and the same.
We are two like-minded friends who believe that talking about money with your friends and family opens the door to financial well-being.
The Friends on Fire podcast is about dispelling myths, building financial acumen, and sharing your financial independence journey with the people you care about.
This is Friends on Fire.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Maggie.
How's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. We're talking about one of your favorite topics today.
Oh my God. So much fun.
Yeah. I'm excited to dig in. I can always tell when one of us is particularly passionate about a topic because I'm excited about this one too, to be clear. So I don't mean one of us, but.
Can you finish your thought?
I don't know. My thoughts don't always have finishes to them.
Yeah,
Sometimes
they're
they
more
just
of
start.
like just thought starters.
Yeah, and then they just kind of linger and meander for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
and then either someone picks them up or someone doesn't.
Yeah.
And in that case, no one did. So let's just keep talking.
Okay.
What are we going to talk about today?
Maggie.
Yeah, I know. Years in, and you're like, there's so many layers to unpack with me.
We are going to be talking about travel hacking again, but we have a different twist on this. You and I have a new goal for 2022.
Well, you set a goal for me, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's like how all of our goals are. I set them, and you're like, I don't know any better. Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to reduce my expenses by X%. I'm like, great. Okay, I'm going to read that many books.
So our goal, we are going to combine for 1 million points and miles earned in 2022.
Could you put your little pinky next to your lip when you say 1
1
million?
million points.
1 million travel points in 2022. Insert sound effects here. That is not an appropriate sound effect for that, but I couldn't make any other noises. It's exciting. 1 million.
Yes.
When you first threw it out, I was like, wait, is that, I was doing some quick math in my head. I was like, is that 1 million each or is that?
No, 500,000 each, which
I was more down with it once you clarified that was across our two families.
Yeah, it would be, I think, impossible for us to go get 1 million points just because we don't spend enough money on credit cards to be able to earn that.
Well, and just the volume you can kind of churn through in 1 year too.
500,000 though is reasonable.
And to be clear, it's reasonable because we're also in 2 partner households. It could be a little aggressive if you are trying to do this yourself with just one person. So keep in mind.
Yeah.
Think of this as we almost each have a 250, along with our spouses, we each have a 250,000 point goal.
And this is fun for us because it involves tracking of numbers and accumulating of numbers, which is of course awesome. But it ties into our greatest passion, which is travel. And we have been utilizing points and miles for travel recently, and we have some upcoming travel plans. And so, it is a little bit of work to go through this process and to track this stuff, but the end result is that we get to travel for free.
It's our greatest passion, and it's also my highest expense category. So I'm kind of motivated to, again, I don't mind spending on it because it's important to me, but I definitely like the idea of having more, spending less, right? And hacking my way to more points. And we'll get into it later, but this goal, you setting this goal, even like the last week of, I think you set it for us or mentioned it to me. And I agreed to let you set it for us at the end of 2021. And I already, I got a jump start. I mean, I applied for a card right at the end of the year that, didn't arrive until 2022. So the point bonus counts for our 2022 goal.
Yes.
But it really has kickstarted Greg and I, and I'll talk about all the progress that we've already made. But
let's do a quick overview about what travel hacking is, specifically credit card travel hacking. And then we will go through a little bit of background on how it works and some of the risks, and then talk about our specific plans and what this goal means and what we're going to be doing on the show to keep you guys updated. The first thing, if this seems like some weird scheme or the idea makes you nervous, don't be. There are millions of people who go through and do this. There are hundreds of websites and podcasts who are focused on how you maximize credit card rewards.
Large businesses too, not just, I mean, these aren't just like tiny websites. These are like multi-employee businesses now that.
Yeah. This is legit. This is part of the industry. You don't need to be nervous about it. It's been going on for a long time. I've been doing this for over 10 years and have never once had a problem with it. So
yeah, and just to be clear, it's 100% legal, right?
Yeah.
So this is just, in terms of like everybody does it, don't be nervous, but also it's completely legal. Companies know that there's types of customers that are focused on this versus, the people who are willing to pay thousands of dollars a night for a hotel room, right? They're in different segments of who they're targeting as consumers. And it is, it works. And you look at, we'll give some examples later, but you look at what travel looks like with and without this, and it just can save you, tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So there are many different types of cards. Airline cards, hotels, cashback, retailers have cards. Then there are different banks, Chase, Citi, US Bank. And then there are card providers like Visa and MasterCard and American Express. And then on top of that, there are business cards and consumer cards. And so you get these variations which create hundreds of permutations of cards. So you can get a Marriott, Chase, MasterCard, business card, and then you have the consumer card, and then you have one from Citi, and then there are so many out there that there is no shortage of opportunities to go earn hundreds of thousands and millions of points.
Okay, so let's jump into how it works, and we'll come back to the different types of cards in a minute to help with some thoughts there. But in terms of how it works, the big value in the kind of quote travel hacking space, it comes from the point bonuses that you get from signing up for these cards and reaching a spend level, which we'll talk about in a minute. It doesn't come from the just day-to-day spend. So that's not to say that, for years, like before I learned about what kind of quote travel hacking really was, which was, I'm going to say a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. We put all of our expenses on a Delta Sky Miles card, and we did earn a lot of miles, but not the volume that you can earn through travel hacking. So there's a little, I don't know what you call it, like a baby junior version of travel hacking, which is just putting all your expenses on a card that earns you some sort of points or miles that are of value to you. But that is the very basic level. You want to actually do some hacking is when you get the value, these big values that you're going to get from sign up bonuses. So the idea is you apply for a card, you meet the minimum spend requirement. They're all different. Some of them are, like spend $3,000 or $4,000 in the first 3 months, which is a pretty common one. And then you get some amount of points, which is advertised up front, like 75,000 points or 100,000 points, or sometimes 150,000 points, which is a really big bonus. And sometimes it'll be a spend, especially on some of the business cards or higher end cards. It might be a spend limit or a spend threshold of $10,000 over 6 months. And so we'll get into that point there, but that's kind of how it works. And so you're in this game to churn through these cards, right? So when we talk about trying to get to 1 million points this year, between my husband and I, we already have applied for and have 3 new credit cards. And it is right now the second week in January that we are recording this discussion. And that's the game. And look, we're not going to keep up that same pace of 3 cards every 2 weeks, right? We're getting our year started because we've got some big expenses, which we'll talk about in terms of how you think about doing this. But that's the spirit of kind of how quote travel hacking works in its most simplest form. And then I'm going to let Mike explain to you what you can get with all these points, because that's the math department that Mike runs.
Points are not all created equal. So Maggie, you mentioned 50,000 points, 100,000 points, 150,000 points. The bonuses change, but 100,000 airline points are not the same value as 100,000 hotel points. And this is where you have to really understand what you are signing up for and what you're going to use them for. Now, if you are interested in what points are worth, the Points Guy, very popular blog, he maintains a list of his estimates of what each different type of point is worth. My own rule of thumb, and what I've found through utilizing this, is that hotel points are generally worth 0.5 cents a piece. Airline miles are worth around 2 cents a piece. And so if you're thinking about it as a percentage cash back, that's 0.5% cash back for hotel points, 2% cash back as airline points. And so this goes to the normal spend. But if somebody's going to give you 100,000 points up front, that is where the value comes in. So when you're looking for ways to use your points and miles, you should always do the math. If a hotel room costs $50 or 50,000 points, you should use cash because those 50,000 points can likely be used to go get $250 of value in the future. That's 50,000 times 0.005. So half a cent per piece times 50,000. You don't want to just blow through your points because it saves you the cash. You want to use them on something that's high value. And depending on the opportunity you are looking at, you could be getting 5 cents a piece for hotel points. You can get 10 times that depending on what the redemption rate is. So think of your miles and points as cash and do your due diligence. If you have 1 million airline miles, which is what we're talking about here, I think we're primarily focused on airlines, we're talking about $20,000 of cash equivalent that Friends on Fire is going to earn this year. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And if you recall my travel spend last year from when we, a couple weeks ago, did our, what our family spent, my family spent $17,000 on travel. So I just use that as an example on if we had been really, really calculated and everything, like we could have traveled for a whole year for free, right? From what we're going to earn in this year. And then you can keep doing this. The other thing that I would add, Mike, for anybody who was just a little confused or not even confused, but it was like overwhelming what you just shared about doing the math and the points and all that, I would make the comparison to many personal finance topics in the sense that you can learn more and more over time. So don't let like thinking about having to do like the point value math, don't let that overwhelm you. Just start getting into this. Know that, and we'll talk more about like examples, but know that if you fly Delta and you can get a good sign up bonus on Delta, like do the thing, figure out the point value later on the flip side when you're, trying to decide when you want to redeem your points and stuff. But like, don't get overwhelmed by the numbers and thinking that this is a really complicated approach to things because it's not that complicated. And there are sites like the Points Guy, they'll do the math for you. And they've got actually a cool app that tells you when something's a good redemption value or not. And so there's a lot of kind of cool tools that are available for completely free that are out there that even tell you like what are good sign up bonuses. So when I go to sign up for cards, I go to the Points Guy and he's got a great recommendation of like the best sign up bonuses in January 2022. Right. And I'm letting him do the homework for me. I know you like to do some of it yourself, Mike, but for those that are overwhelmed, there's some really great resources out there that will do it for you.
So let's run through briefly some of the risks. And actually, now that I think about it, risks is kind of too strong of a term. Just some
considerations?
of the considerations. That's right. Yeah. Let's run through some of the considerations. First one is that canceling a credit card, so after you've churned through it, does lower your score because it lowers your available credit, which in turn changes your credit utilization. We did an episode on how credit scores are calculated, but not by a lot. It's like 2 points or something. It's like immaterial. So like, yes, changes your score. Don't worry about it. I have been doing this for over 10 years. I have a perfect credit score. This is not an impact.
Yeah. The biggest thing people want to make sure they don't do, which will hurt your credit score, is don't ever cancel the oldest first credit card you have. Like keep that open, even if you're not actively using it, because that can have a big ding to your credit rating.
Right. The length of your credit history, big factor in your score.
Which often is tied to people's first credit card.
The other thing is that canceling a card might get you flagged by a card provider as a, quote unquote churner. But this is kind of anecdotal. I have never been denied for a card. And so, which makes me think it's a relatively small factor, but you don't want to sign up for the card, get the bonus, and then cancel it a month later. You should hold on to it for a year and just give people the impression that you're serious about it.
Yeah. Do you think it matters if you charge anything on it over time? Like, do you sort of put stuff on it just for fun every
occasionally,
now and then? Like,
just so that I have
like go to the dollar
bill.
store.
Yep,
and you're
go
like,
to the dollar
kids,
store, spend
everybody
$5.
gets,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everybody gets one thing. It's on me.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind is that there are a lot of cards that will only let you earn a bonus once per lifetime on that exact card. So again, as Mike talked about in the beginning, there's a lot of different types of cards, right? So if you've signed up for the Delta Gold Amex card or whatever it is, and you got 100,000 miles from them, you're not going to get that same offer again. You might be advertised that offer. You might see it, you'd see it, highlighted on the points guy or something. But when you click through, it will at some point throughout the process let you know that you are not eligible for that, because they'll realize that they've already given you that points bonus before. But again, there's so many iterations of cards. So I've gotten a point bonus on a certain Delta one, but then when I got the Delta Reserve, which is a different credit card, I am eligible for that point bonus. So it's usually just the exact same credit card, that same level. But again, like I'll take Delta American Express as an example. There's like 7 different versions of a Delta American Express between their business ones and their personal ones. And I just registered for a Delta Business American Express for our rental business. And that is a different card with a different sign-up bonus, and it does keep you eligible. So just make sure that you're kind of considering that you can't re-get these bonuses again. You can't duplicate them again.
Sometimes. Some credit card issuers will allow you to get it after 24 months again.
Yeah. And it's in the fine print.
Yep.
Yeah, read the fine print.
Jinx.
Yeah, jinx. You love some fine print, Mike.
Last consideration, don't do too many at a time. You don't want to have like 15 open credit cards. Like you will start getting denied for new credit cards. You're also going to lose track. You're going to miss payments. You're going to miss the threshold needed to get the sign-up bonuses. Like this becomes really messy and complicated if you have too many. So I like to have like 2 to 5 going at any given time, but I would recommend you don't do more than that. All right, so let's talk about how to make this work practically and keep track of this stuff. And then we'll get into some of our travel plans and just talk about our goal again. You need to have a good way to keep track of it. So what gets measured gets better. This should not be a surprise. We track our expenses, we track our net worth, we track our points balances. And there's a website called awardwallet.com that I've been using for a long time. And it shows your current balances, it links to your accounts, it notifies you when your balances are set to expire. It is just a great service, but you need something like this in order to keep track of your points and miles, especially as you accumulate a lot.
And that's a free site, Mike. They do have a paid version, which I think you actually paid for, which is crazy because you rarely spring for the paid version of something.
It's $10 a year, so.
That's like, yeah, you're right. It's quite affordable. I use the free version of it. And then also the Points Guy just came out with an app. It's also a free app and it's pretty slick. My husband and I have both been using it. It was like in beta at the end of last year. And so it's been out for, I want to say like less than 6 months or not that long. Again, it's pretty slick. I'd say it rivals Award Wallet in many ways. And we'll put a link to both of those in the show notes also. I also keep a spreadsheet, to be clear, because there's some things that I don't know that I don't think Award Wallet tracks like exactly what date you open the card and if you've hit your spend bonus.
That's right. I have a separate spreadsheet where I've been keeping track of all this stuff. All right. Price is Right. How many points and miles do you think I've earned from bonuses over the past 11 years?
Oh my gosh. 3 million?
3.4 million.
Wow. I was pretty
yeah, it's pretty good.
Close. Yeah. That was just a swag too. I was just thinking 11 years. How many? Okay. Good job, Mike. I like that you've been tracking it forever too.
Yeah.
Okay. I think another good tip in terms of, how you make this work is you really want to think ahead to where you want to go and a general plan for the types of points that you want to use and earn. So Mike, you made a comment early on that you're like mostly focused on airline miles. That could be because we both work for a hotel company. And so we get a employee hotel discount, and I've just earned a lot of hotel points over the years also and have a backlog of those. But if you work for an airline, you might want to lean into the hotel side of things, right? And other types of points. If you live in a city where Southwest doesn't come through your city, well, then you might not get a lot of value from all those Southwest points in a Southwest card. But like we live in Atlanta, for example, I never have any concern about getting Delta miles because that is the primary airline I fly most of the time. And we are a huge Delta hub. And so you just want to be thoughtful about, don't rack up a bunch of points with Emirates Air when you have no plans to ever travel to the Middle East and an area that they're particularly popular in. So just be thoughtful about kind of the types of points that you're trying to earn.
And also think about what your spending plans are going to be in the near future, because you're going to have to meet these thresholds, which could be small, could be a couple thousand, could be large, like 10 or 15,000. But you want to make sure that you have the upcoming expenses to cover those, because there is nothing worse than getting a card and coming in $50 short of your spending threshold just because you couldn't figure it out, or you lost track of. You lost track of it.
It's interesting, Mike. I teased this a little bit earlier. So the reason we have 3 cards already this year is because you gave me this goal, and I'm very goal oriented. I have shifted my thinking. So now every time we have to pay for anything, we're like, well, it's a waste if we're not getting some sort of a bonus from it, right? And so pretty early in the year, we realized like we were booking a house for spring break, and it's like multiple thousands of dollars through Airbnb. And so we knew we were like, well, that's something that goes on a credit card. They don't even take any other form of payment. So we had a couple things that like we knew were coming up. And so I was like frantically like, I got to get a card because we can't book this house until we, because I don't want to, it feels like such a waste to spend the entire amount of a spend bonus, of a spend threshold to get a travel bonus or a points bonus, and then, get nothing from it. So it's funny how my mind has shifted to where Greg and I are now thinking ahead to what expenses are coming up. Even when we've shifted a little bit. So I knew that spring break expense was coming up. So I got a card, but then that thing happened with my tires, which was like over $1,000. And so I put that on the card. And then I was like, well, Greg, you get another card because we're going to hit this spend bonus really quickly. Mm-hmm. And we need to have, the next thing ready to roll. And we're kind of toggling back and forth between us just because it's hitting 2 different credit reports. So we want to kind of take turns on it.
I love to see how you have evolved in this area, Baggy, because a couple of years ago, you had your one Delta card and you really didn't think about this at all. And now not at all.
And again, we used the Delta miles that we earned, and we did put everything on our Delta cards, but it was like small potatoes compared to what we're earning. It took us what I'm earning in 1 week, what it took me an entire year to earn.
Yeah.
That's a way of thinking about it. The other reminder, which I'll give since I'm the one who messes this up. I don't know that you've ever messed this up, Mike, is because I was so I had my basic credit cards and I used them and I had them on auto pay. I don't pay a lot of bills. All my bills are on auto pay. When I started this last year and started getting new credit cards, I all of a sudden was actually literally twice forgot to pay these new bills because they were like mailed to me. And I didn't, I was like, I don't open my mail and like pay. What is this? This is a foreign concept to me. So the one thing that I now have on like my tracker and a to-do list is every time I open a new card, I immediately put it on auto pay and set it up on auto pay because I had to call like 2 different companies and was like, I'm so sorry. This was a new thing. I didn't see the bill in the mail. All my other stuff's on auto pay. I didn't realize this wasn't, I just kind of played dumb and they removed the late fees. Plus it'll ding my credit eventually, right? So I think the biggest thing is just remember that you've got these new credit cards. You need to pay the bill. It will ding your credit if you don't pay the bill, which you don't want to do, and accrue, late fees and interest fees and everything else. And so make sure that you get these set up on auto pay or have a system for keeping an eye because these are new bills that are now entering your household. And you got to keep up with throughout this year. I'm going to have to, pay 7 or 8 different new credit card bills and companies. And so it's a little bit of work and you just need to be thoughtful and on top of it.
And it might go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. You should only be spending money on these credit cards that you would be spending anyway. So if you're going to go get $1,000 worth of airline miles from some bonus, but you then waste $1,000 on something that you otherwise wouldn't have spent the money on because you wanted to get it, then you've offset your gain and there's nothing to be had from this whole exercise. So
that is a great point.
Don't waste your money.
I thought you were going to say something else, which I will now say. Do not put things on these credit cards where you cannot afford to pay the bill. You're not accruing interest. These credit cards have terrible interest rates. They're like 20% plus. These are not zero interest ways to finance things you can't afford. So travel hacking is only when you can pay your bill every single month. Travel hacking is only useful when you can pay your bill every month and when you can responsibly charge things that you actually need and value and are in your budget and can afford and all that, right? It's not an excuse to just start buying random crap.
Yeah.
So that you can hit some spend limit. Yeah, it defeats the whole purpose. None of these points are worth anything if you're, paying a premium to get them.
And kind of wrapping up some of the points about how this works and what to look out for. There are business cards and there are personal cards. So if you have an LLC, if you have some part-time hustle income, you can apply for a business card and do both.
So, Mike, I think before we do our top 3 takeaways, let's share a couple examples of how we've used travel hacking recently to finance some pretty cool upcoming trips.
Yes. So this is where things get really fun because we are putting this into practice, and I've already booked a couple trips using points entirely. We're going to Japan, which hopefully will still happen.
Britta's got like a cool swim masters meet, like the Olympics
championship swim meet in Japan. We used airline miles to get over there and back. We're using hotel points to stay there. I mean, so far it's 2 weeks and it's been entirely free. It's no cost. And then we're also going back to Europe, and again, used airline miles for the entire family. We're going to use hotel points for some of our stays. There is no cost to this, and this could very easily be $10 or $20 or $30,000 of expense to get a whole family over to these places for quite a period of time.
So same thing. We did a lot of travel last year. Some of it, last year we went to Costa Rica and Hawaii, all on points, which we earned through various things like regular everyday spend and also some travel hacking. But this summer in 2022, and we bought the tickets at the end of last year, but for this summer, we are taking our kids to Europe, and we booked, 5 tickets all on miles using point bonuses that we got through 2 different Delta cards that Greg and I signed up for. And they were expensive Delta cards with big point bonuses. It was like a $600 fee. It was the reserve card. We got awesome lounge access last year, and we'll get it into this year too. And we paid for it. And again, it's travel hacking. You're not getting things for completely free, but we got like 5 flights for, instead of $9,000 for those flights, it was closer to a couple $1,000s because of and I'm saying that from the fees and the sign up bonuses, the cost of those credit cards.
It's fantastic.
Which, Mike, we didn't really clarify, but just to be clear, a lot of these cards, especially with big point bonuses, many of them do have an annual fee on them, which we didn't really talk about. And so just to hit that real quick, some of the annual fees can be some of them are $0, but many times they're like from $95 all the way up to like $500, $300, $400, $500, $600. And you're doing the math on like, often you're getting like $2,000 worth of points for $500 for that sign up fee. Right.
Yeah.
And so
plus some other benefits like lounge access.
Yeah. And often there's credits too of like, you get $300 travel credit for different things. So you want to try to take advantage of all those credits as best as you can, which we didn't get into. That's kind of the part 2 of travel hacking. The cost of that, the annual fee on those cards, it's okay the first year because it's paying for itself through the point bonuses you're getting. What you do want to do though is often you're canceling that. You're not renewing it the second year because it's not worth it the second year unless you need the benefits that card provides you.
So 1 million points, Maggie. I think we can both do it. This can be fun.
How many points do you have so far?
We have 1 new card with 65,000 American Airline points.
Okay. But we haven't actually gotten our point bonuses yet because we've got to, finish the spend threshold and all that. But
me too.
In the next few weeks, we'll have 200,000 between our first 3 cards.
That's awesome.
Yeah, one a business card and then 2. But again, I did the business card because I knew we had this squirrel issue, and I have to pay like a good bit of money today actually to eradicate some squirrels out of an attic, and at least I'm getting something for it.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's hit our top 3 takeaways, Maggie.
Okay, as we just said, you could easily rack up 500,000 travel points this year, especially across a couple, because, again, in my example, it's mid-January and we're already on track to get 200,000 and we've got another 11 months ahead of us. So this is possible for any of you to do.
Be thoughtful and intentional about how you approach this because it can be very lucrative, but only if it's done well.
Number 3, this approach to earning points and then using them, it takes extra time. It is just more time intensive. So realize this up front and realize that this is a trade-off in your time versus your money. We personally think it's a fun trade-off. I wasn't as exposed to it, a while back, but I do think it's fun and I like saving money and it's interesting and it's just it's a fascinating space also. And we actually just did an episode on kind of the value of your time and money. And so this is a great example of, an area where I know, Mike, you highly value spending a little bit of extra time to save money.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. If you've been challenged or inspired by what you've heard, please rate and review the show. You can also subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode.
If you have any thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you, and you can leave us a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370, or you can always hit us up on Instagram.
All right, Maggie, good luck. 500,000
Okay.
points and miles.
Yeah, here we go. 1 million.
All right.
Okay, bye, Mike.
Bye.